Howdy folks, and welcome back to this Let's Play series of Star Trek Online. My name is Winters and you are very welcome. So for this episode we are going to talk about one of the very many systems that is in Star Trek Online, and it is located here. When you open up your character sheet, you click on skills, and this is basically what it's about here, specializations. So if we click on specializations, you can see a list opens up, and currently there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different specializations in the game. So you might ask, what is a specialization? Well, I'm going to click on Command Officer here. So specializations become available once you hit level 51. And each time you level up after reaching level 50, basically from 51 and upwards, and beyond level 65, which is the current cap in the game, each time you level up you will get a specialization point. So it starts at 51. At level 52 you get another one, so that's 2 points you have. At 53 you get another one, so that's 3 points you have, and so on, all the way up to 65. When you get to 65, you don't go any higher, currently in the game anyway. Not until they increase the level cap at some point in the future. However, see this white bar here? That doesn't just max out and stop progressing once it reaches the very end here. Each time that fills up and caps out, it overflows, and the remainder basically resets, and the remainder gets put in, and it starts filling up again. But when it overflowed, it gave you a specialization point. So yeah, even when you hit 65 you still keep on earning specialization points. Now those specialization points can be spent within any of the specialization trees, and that's what these are. We've currently selected Command Officer, and basically the points you spend within the specialization tree are all, you know, passive or active buffs. Basically they just improve your character and your gameplay. So for example, if we highlight over this one, Scan for Weaknesses 1, we can see that it's a space skill, and it's a 1% chance exposed target to torpedo exploits. Torpedo exploits gain plus 50 armor penetration. Plus 50 armor penetration, that's, you know, like that's pretty substantial. If we go down to this one, see here, Scan for Weaknesses 2, 2% chance of getting plus 50 armor penetration. So there's a 2% chance that you will gain that plus 50 armor penetration. If we highlight over this one, Tachyon charges, minus 18 shield drain on exposed targets, and it keeps on going in that vein. So yeah, you can spend points in any of the specialization trees, and you gradually unlock all the different bonuses and passives, and at the end of each one there's a clicky that's usually down here, which would be this one, I think, or is it this one? No, it's this one here. This is a clicky, so an active, not a passive ability. There are two different types of specializations. There are primary specializations and there are secondary specializations. So the question becomes, what is a primary specialization? So a primary specialization is any specialization tree, in short, that has 4 tiers, okay, or 30 points in it. So if we look at this one, tier 1, there's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, okay? So you can look at it either way. A primary specialization is a specialization that either has 30 points in it, or the ability to put 30 points in it, or 4 tiers, okay? Same difference, it doesn't really matter. If I click on specializations here and we go to Intelligence Officer, this is what an incomplete specialization tree looks like. So this is a primary specialization as well, same as Command Officer. Command Officer is already filled out for us though, so we'll just work off Intelligence Officer. And we can see there's no points spent in it whatsoever, but this is still a primary specialization tree. The second type of specialization is secondary specialization. Actually, wait, before we go on to that, currently in the game, Command Officer, Intelligence Officer, Miracle Worker, Pilot, and Temporal Operative are all primary specialization trees. Now, moving on to secondaries. Currently in the game, Commando, Constable, and Strategist are the only secondary specialization trees that are currently in the game. So if we click on, we'll just go with Strategist here. We can see, alright, this is a secondary specialization tree. It only has 2 tiers in it, or basically 15 possible points that can go into it. Okay? So that's primary specializations and secondary specializations. Down at the bottom here, we can see I currently have 5 specialization points built up. As I've mentioned earlier, as I continue to level up, I will gain more and more specialization points, and I will be able to spend those points within the different specialization trees. So currently in the game, with the number of primary specializations that are available, there is 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 195 possible levels beyond level 50. 195 possible levels. That's currently in the game. This will be expanded later on in the future. No doubt they will introduce more and more specialization trees. Now, like, you know, you'd be lucky if you got one a year, and it could either be a primary or a secondary. Have no idea. But no doubt we will be getting more at different points within the future. I'm going to go back to Intelligence Officer here. So if I want to activate Intelligence Officer as my primary specialization, it's very easily done. Basically, you go up here and you click on Activate Primary. And you can see that lit up, and it is now currently my primary specialization. If we click here, we can see that it is highlighted with the Roman numeral for 1, indicating that it is my primary specialization. Now if we go to Strategist, and we want to activate, this is our secondary. Very simple, you just click on Activate Secondary, and we click on Specializations. We can see now that this is now our secondary specialization. I'm going to go back to Command Officer here now. Primary specializations have one other function, and no doubt you've already seen this. Activate Secondary is available also on a primary specialization tree. Basically, you can activate a primary specialization tree either as an active primary or as an active secondary. One or the other, not both. Never two together at the same time. Or the same one can't be activated for both at the same time. You always have one primary active and one secondary active. But the point I'm trying to make is that if I wanted, I could make Command Officer my secondary specialization. So you might wonder what that means. Well, basically, if you activate a primary specialization as your secondary specialization, it will only utilize the first 2 tiers. The first 2 tier abilities, okay? So tier 1 and tier 2, or basically the first 15 points in the tree. Alright, so tier 3 and tier 4 will not be utilized while it is active as a secondary. Only tier 1 and tier 2. And if I go to I'm going to go to Miracle Worker, I activate, this is primary, so now I'm utilizing all 30 points in this specialization tree, and I'm using the first 15 or first 2 tiers in the Command Officer specialization tree. Okay? Right, so that's specializations, what they are, how you get specialization points, activating primaries and secondaries. Let's say, for example, you have every single one of these complete. Actually, no, we won't go on to that yet. Alright, so the next thing I want to point out is there's another bonus that specializations have. And you can see there's a bar down here, and if I click on Intelligence Officer again, you can see this one isn't actually filled. The way you fill up this bar is basically by spending specialization points within that given specialization tree. And each point you spend gradually fills it up. And if you see here, if we read this, while this Intelligence Officer specialization is active, you will gain a 5% increase to your dodge chance, ground only, and defense, space only. Okay? So you will gain a 5% increase to your dodge chance and defense, basically. Dodge chances for ground and defenses for space. This bonus increases by a small amount for each point spent in the specialization. You must have at least 1 point. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, current points spent in intelligence 0. Current bonus space plus 5 defense rating. Current bonus ground plus 5 dodge chance. That's what is currently there. Now these bonuses do not become active until the specialization is either primary or secondary. Okay? So what I was saying was, if you have all of these filled, you will only ever gain the benefits of a specialization tree, doesn't matter whether it's primary or secondary, only if it is active as either a primary or secondary. So I hope that makes sense. I know it's a little bit confusing and I mightn't be doing the best job of explaining it, but hopefully it made sense. Or it made sense, sorry. If we click on Miracle Worker, while the Miracle Worker specialization is active, your hull regeneration and health regeneration will be increased. This bonus increases by a small amount for each point spent in specialization. So this specialization is already 100% complete, all 30 points spent. Current points spent in Miracle Worker, 30. Current bonus space, 50% of max hull regenerated per minute. Current bonus ground, 50% hit points regenerated per minute. So while we have this specialization active, we are gaining from those benefits. And that's pretty freaking sweet. In fact, it's very, very freaking sweet. So you might ask, which specializations should you use? Which is a very good question. I could go through each one, but honestly, it would take too long. And the best advice I can give you is to go through each specialization tree. And I know there's a lot of abilities, but go through each one and see which one best suits your build and playstyle. Okay? So Command Officer is kind of team-based, maybe a little bit more on torpedo side of things. Yeah, a little bit defensive, so maybe engineers might be good for. In fact, it would be good for engineers because there's a lot of damage resists and so on. Yeah. So that's how I categorize that one. Intelligence Officer is kind of a good all-rounder. There's some good defense and offensive stuff. It was one of the first ones actually to come out in the game. Miracle Worker, definitely engineering. That has to be engineering. It's all about health and restoring and stuff like that. Power levels and what have you. Yeah. Pilot, I would say, is definitely for the likes of escorts, but it doesn't have to be used on escorts exclusively. But I definitely would say it's more damage focused. If we look down here, while the pilot specialization is active, you will gain a 10% increase to your Starship's turn rate. Okay, that's what we get when there's no points spent in it at all. And that number will increase the more points we spend in it, and then if we either activate it as a primary or secondary. Temporal Operative, I would say, is definitely more sciencey. It's got a lot more stuff with exotic damage and such, so I would say that one is a lot more sciencey. Commando, as a secondary, 100% ground. That is all it is good for. Nothing else. It is 100% ground. Nothing else. Something I should point out about Pilot. Pilot is 100% space. If we go to, let's just say, Miracle Worker, and all the rest of them are like this. See here, you have some space and ground skills. And see these ones here are ground skills, and these ones over here are space, and then you have space and ground, space and ground, space and ground, space and ground, space and ground. Command Officer works the same, Intelligence Officer works the same, Miracle Worker works the same, obviously, Temporal Operative works the same, but Pilot is 100% space. Everything in it is space. Anyway, Commando, as we said, 100% ground. That is all it is for. So if, it's worth keeping in mind. Constable is, do you know what, to be honest with you, I actually haven't looked into Constable all that much. All I do know is that it is space and ground. Seems to be a little bit of stealth, a little bit of damage resistance, controllability, bonus controllability effectiveness, okay, and resistance ratings, yeah. Increased damage, yeah, so it's kind of a little bit of an all-rounder. Yeah, it's got some interesting stuff. It seems to be debuffing your target, mostly. That's the main thought behind this one. So it's some good stuff in there. And then we have Strategist. Strategist, I would say, is a little bit defensive and a good secondary as well. It is definitely a good secondary. But you might find that, let's say, you like, you really like Pilot, okay? You really, really like Pilot, and it just works with your build and your playstyle perfectly. But you might find that, Constable it's not really doing it for you. Strategist isn't really doing it for you. However, Intelligence Officer, you might find that the first 15 abilities here, or the first 2 tiers, work really well for your build. So you can activate this as your secondary. Okay? So you don't necessarily have to use the secondaries as your secondary. You could use a primary as your secondary. And I realize that kind of might come across as a little bit confusing, but hopefully you're with me anyway. I'm just pointing out that it's an option. Alright, it can be done. Like here, if we look at this, see this icon here with the Roman numeral for 2? This is currently my secondary specialization, meaning that I'm only using the first 15 points or the first 2 tiers. So, you know, take your time, go through it and see what works best for you. Another thing about spending points in specialization trees. As you spend points, you will unlock different abilities, and you can see I just click down here and here it is. So like tier 1, unlock access to more abilities. That's when we get to there. That's spending 5 points. Tier 2 unlock when you spend 5 points. 8 points intelligent kit modules. Can use White Common intelligent kit modules, so that would be here, like, you know, on your guy. Tier 3, unlock more abilities. Same stuff. Alright, here's the one I wanted to get to. So all specializations, primaries and secondaries, when you spend 15 points, and obviously for a secondary that's the max, there is a free Starship trait that you get from all the specializations once you spend 15 points in it. In this case, spending in Intelligence Officer, it is called Predictive Algorithms Starship trait. And if you're a free-to-play player, this is one way that you can gain some pretty decent Starship traits. And if we click on traits here, we can see right here, we have Starship traits, and you can have a total of 5. The 5th one is an unlock that you have to purchase from the fleet research lab. But we currently have 2 out of the possible 4 that we can currently have, because we don't have the 5th slot unlocked. The reason why we have these, if I go back, is because we have Command Officer filled and we have Miracle Worker filled. Okay, so if we look here, going the extra mile Starship trait, and if we go back to traits and we look here, here it is, going the extra mile, improved actually, going the extra mile Starship trait, we got that. Okay, so that's spending 15 points. Now this next part is 100% only for primary specialization trees, and the reason for that is when you put 30 points into a primary specialization, and obviously you can't put 30 points into a secondary, so that's why I said this is 100% for primary specializations only, you get an improved version of the previous Starship trait that you got. Okay, so when we spend 15 points, in this case going the extra mile, we got that Starship trait. Spend 30, we get improved going the extra mile Starship trait. What's the difference between them? Basically, in short, it's just better stats, you know. So let's say it's a damage buff, a 1% damage buff. The improved version will give you a 2% damage buff, for example. Okay, whatever it is, it basically is just better stats at the improved level. And all specializations have a Starship trait with them. Only primary specializations have an improved Starship trait with them. I am going to let's see, I should have thought about this before I started recording this episode. Who do I want to start filling out? Because Command Officer's done, Miracle Worker's done. I think I'll go with Intelligence Officer. It doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to double click on this one here and cancel that. And that's all you have to do actually, is just double click on each of the different abilities and start filling out the trees. And notice how the bar is filling up here with each point that I spend. See, and now we got up to 2. And basically access to more abilities, which means that our next 5, if we want, can now go into tier 2. Obviously we could go in here if we wanted as well, but we have 5 points spent in tier 1, and that unlocks tier 2. And if we look at, if we click here, damn, I should have looked at this beforehand. What was this? While Intelligence Officer Specialization is active, you will gain a 5% increase to your dodge chance and defense, and we are now up to 6.7. I can't remember, was that a +5 or 0? Man, I have a goldfish memory. Anyway, look at those numbers continue to go up the more points you spend in the specialization tree. Right, the next thing I want to talk about is this one here, unlock specialization qualification. So all tier 6 starships have at least one specialization qualification on it. And basically what that means is that one or more of the stations, as in the bridge officer stations on that ship, can utilize specialization bridge officer abilities. So with the ship that we're currently flying, if we look here, we can see that this particular seat, none of the rest of them, just this one only, can use command officer bridge officer abilities. If you can't identify the icon, simply click on the bridge officer's name here, and it will tell you what the seat is. So in this case, it's a Lieutenant Commander Engineering / Command Station. Okay, so it's for the Command Officer Specialization. If it was an Intel, it would say Intelligence Station. If it was Miracle Worker, it would say Miracle Worker Station, and so on. Right. So that means that this seat can use command officer, bridge officer abilities. How do you get them? Well, the first thing is, actually, the first thing is you have to have a starship that is tier 6, and each starship is set in what its specialization seating is. Okay, you can't do anything to affect that. But in order to take advantage of those seats and bridge officer abilities, you have to train up your bridge officers and make them specialists, basically. So if we look at Rem Tural, this guy here, we'll just pick him because he's the only one I can pronounce his name for. See here, this icon? This is indicating that he is a miracle worker specialist. And in fact, it actually says it here. So if we had a ship that had miracle worker bridge officer station, he would be able to use his miracle worker abilities. And if we click on skills for him and we scroll down, voila, look, there we have some miracle worker bridge officer abilities for tier 1, for tier 2, for tier 3, and tier 4. Okay, so there's actually a lot of stuff there for him. How do you train your bridge officers to become specialists? Well, if we click up here, well, damn it, he's already trained up in all of them. Wow, that is... I didn't realize they trained everybody up. They did. See, this is some of the benefits of having been a lifetime member and having paid for the pack. Alright, so anyway, we'll go with this one. Tamak Talan. This guy is not a specialist whatsoever, but if we click on specialization here, we can see he has the ability to learn all the different specializations. And actually, I should point out, only primary specializations can be trained, or that you can train a specialist in. Okay, secondaries do not count, only primaries. So how do you get these specialization qualifications? Because you can see these are all grayed out, so I can't actually train them in any of these at the minute. I need, let's say, a pilot specialist qualification. If you go over here and click on your duty officer button and go to R&D and down to officer training, this is where you can craft and create your specialization qualification manuals for the different specializations. We can see we can do one here for miracle worker and one for command officer. The reason being is that we have got these already filled out. Basically, we have 10 or more points already spent in them. Alright, because we don't have 10 or more points spent, let's say, an intelligence officer, we can't train a specialist in that yet. But once we have 10 points spent in it, we can train specialization qualifications. And this is where you would do it. So what you do is, let's click on details here. In order to craft this specialization qualification, we need to craft one of these, 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 and so on. Alright? And all you have to do is click on the item. And no, it won't. Why the hell won't it do that? Okay, let's go back. What is this item? Training manual, command, concentrate, firepower 1. Okay, let's see if we can find that. Just I hope we can train that now. Oh, no. Right, okay, yeah, no, because these are all tier, max level abilities. Let me just quickly check here, real quick. These are all threes. Okay, sorry, so I had a bit of a brain fart there. Do you remember a couple of episodes ago, I showed you guys where the bridge officer trainer was on Deep Space Nine? In fact, do you know what, we'll go there, we'll just confirm it, because guess what, I'm learning here too. Well, to a certain degree, but anyway, where is there a turbo lift? We need one. There we go. Alright, so we're going to ops. Right, and we're going across here, and this is the bridge officer trainer.
Hi.
Store.
Let's see what we can teach our officers.
Right. Officer training, and that's what we need there. What was this called again? Concentrate firepower 1. Okay, so we go down to command space, concentrate firepower 1. Boom, there we are. Alright. So you purchase whatever is required. So one of these, rally point marker 1. Let's find that in here. Rally point marker 1 there. You basically buy all these different items, okay? This one now I don't know. Sanctuary 2. Let's have a look and see if that's here. I doubt it is. No, it's not. Alright, so... Oh wait, is that a space ability? It is, actually, yeah. Alright, okay. So you can purchase everything from the Bridge Officer Trainer. And once you have that, then you will be able to craft one of these. It takes 30 seconds, and voila, you have a qualification then for that Bridge Officer. And what you can do then is you can click on that Bridge Officer, go to Skills, go to Specializations, and whatever the qualification is, let's just say it's Pilot, you simply click Learn. That's it. And he is now got the ability to use Pilot Specialization abilities. If you want to change them, like where our ship is currently using Command Officer, look, this is all you have to do. That's it. Now he's a Command Specialist. He's no longer a Miracle Worker Specialist. If I want him to be a pilot, boom. That's just because these Bridge Officers are already trained in them. I can do this, but that's basically as simple as it is.
Let's see what we can...
Go away. Right. So I think that's everything. Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else. I told you all about Starship traits. You can get more of them for free. I suppose actually one thing I should point out, and we didn't talk about this, so I'll do it now actually. All Tier 6 Starships, with the exception of Fleet, have a Starship trait, which always comes at the 5th level of Ship Mastery. Okay, here, the 5th level is always a Starship trait. In terms of a T6 Fleet ship, there was only 4 levels of Mastery. There was no Starship trait with Fleet versions of T6 ships. What is Mastery? Basically, as you get kills in-game, in space obviously, you gain expertise. And all of that, those little bits of expertise you get per kill that you make goes towards progressing up this bar, and you start leveling up through the different levels of up through the different levels of Mastery. You can see now I'm currently at level 3 Mastery, and I have just over 3,500 experience points to unlock Tier 4. That's what I've got left. So I'm well over halfway towards Tier 4. So all T6 starships, apart from Fleet, have a Starship trait. Now, since Victory is Life came out, the Jem'hadar ships have a 6th level of Mastery. And this is a new thing that they've added, and we have no idea if they're going to continue to do this with any other ships in the future. But basically what this does is it allows, well, I mean, look at what it says there. Account-wide reclaim unlock. Complete this tier of Starship Mastery to be allowed to claim this starship on any character on this account. That's it. Boom. Right there. So once I have Mastery level 6, I can then claim this type of ship on every character on my account, no matter what their faction. Okay? So this is a new thing that they've done. And that's what that's for. So it's a one-time deal. You only have to do it on one character. Boom, that's it. Every other character, whether they're supposed to have this ship or not. So for example, only Jem'hadars are supposed to have this ship. Okay, the Jem'hadar faction only. Boom, That's it, no more. But with the 6th level of mastery, it means my Feds, my KDFs, my Romulans, my TOS will be able to get this ship. And all the Jem'hadar ships have this 6th level of mastery. So that's Starship mastery. Right. I don't think there's anything else. Yeah, so listen, thanks a million for watching, folks. I really, really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like. That would help me out enormously. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And as always, please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. My name is Winters, and I'll see you next time. So until then, take care.